Welcome to the Daughters of the Road podcast. In this space, we envision cultivating a community that inspires, empowers, and supports women in the motorsports culture. We seek to engage in lifelong adventure, creating perpetual bonds between sisters, and really honing in on the skills necessary for navigation throughout life. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Brandy.
And we are
Daughters of the Road.
So today we have our very close friend and absolute road dog, Staci Wilt of Ridetofood. With a penchant for exploring all that the road has to offer, from the changing landscapes to the friends to the adventure and obviously the food, she's explored every bit of that and put it in a beautiful array of videos, photos, all that. She's a content creator, and if you don't follow her, you should absolutely follow her. Basically, her brand's a culmination of everything she loves, and we love to support that. So let's get right to it.
First off, thank you so much for including us in your trip out west. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what we have going on?
Of course. First, thanks for having me on. It's so good to see y'all. We haven't hung out in so long.
I know.
What do you mean, what do I have going on? What are we doing right now?
What'd you just do?
Yeah,
Dude, you just flew in from Hawaii?
I mean, where have you been in the last 48 hours?
Oh, well, yeah, about 24 hours ago, I hiked out of the Grand Canyon.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's been quite the adventure. Last 4 or 5 days, I've been down in Havasupai. I'm sure people have seen it on Instagram. It's the really pretty blue water with all the orange rocks around it. You have to hike 10 miles down into the Grand Canyon onto a Indian reservation, and with permits. You can't just show up and go. And I've had these permits since 2020 when the world shut down and the tribe shut their land down, which rightfully so. And we could finally use the permits this year. So I went down there, did, I don't know, I think 40 miles or something over the last 4 days, and then hopped on a plane and came here basically right after. So yeah, it's been pretty gnarly the last few days.
Yeah, pretty much. If that wasn't gnarly enough, we're about to hop on Pan Ams and ride across Nevada.
Yeah, and do 1,500 miles over the next 4 days.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just because our legs aren't noodles enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, want to share some details about that?
Absolutely. So we are all going to be riding Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250 specials with Eagle Rider. You can rent from Eagle Rider Pan Americas, and that's a Vegas specific thing. That is so hard to say. Wow.
Vegas specific.
Yeah, that is a Vegas specific thing. So you can't rent Pan Americas at every single Eagle Rider location across the U.S. I believe you can do it in Los Angeles too. Wow, so tongue-tied. But anyway, we're going to rent 3 of them here in Las Vegas, and we're going to do a huge loop around Nevada and see all the cool things that Nevada has to offer. A lot of people don't think of Nevada as this motorcycle destination, and there is so much to see here, especially once you go up north. I mean, it's all super mountainous and beautiful. We're going to do the loneliest highway. We're going to go over to Lake Tahoe. We're going to come back down and do another scenic byway and go through some old mining towns. It's going to be really, really cool. I'm so excited because I haven't seen really any of Nevada.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, and
it's going to be cool.
I think it's 63, it's either 63 or 64%, one of those, of Nevada land is actually owned by the government. So it's BLM land, and people can go camp on it. They can rip through it most places. But we're going to go to a lot of places that, sorry, Eagle Rider, we can't go off-road, but would be an awesome place to actually go off-road.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm super excited to, explore all those places. I haven't been to Reno, Tahoe, any of that.
Virginia City.
Yeah,
We're
Virginia
gonna take
City.
you to Virginia City.
Yeah, Virginia City's so rad.
Yeah.
And I want to say Nevada has more mountain peaks than any other state. I think that's a fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fun
Yeah.
That
That's
makes sense
rad.
because we're surrounded in the valley. We're surrounded in Vegas by mountains.
Yeah, and people don't think of that. People think maybe Salt Lake City, that's a mountain town or whatever. But Vegas is actually, it's surrounded by so many mountains. You can go 30 minutes up northwest and be in a place that looks like Colorado. It's insane.
Yeah.
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 And we have to take you there too. God, there's
I
so
know.
many places that I think about and I'm like, we need to take her there. We need to take her there.
I know.
Besides food, seeing beautiful things, because everybody comes to Vegas and they're like, oh, let's hit the strip. Let's go to the bars. I'm like, dude, there's so much more to do in Vegas.
There's so much more.
Yeah.
I've been to Vegas, I think this is my 3rd, maybe my 4th time, And I've been to the Strip once out of that. And that was enough. That was cool. And just doing other explorations around the town was really rad. So
Exactly.
I guess I have to come back and we can do stuff around Las Vegas and do it like a local.
You're definitely going to have to come back for that.
1,000%. We've already got an itinerary made.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Where are them sponsors at?
Hey. So I've never been on a Pan America. I know Brandy has. You have. You actually made a whole video. You had a bunch of different adventures on Pan Americas. How are they?
They are so badass. Can I say badass on here?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Brother.
Sister.
Daughter.
Daughter. That's the new one. Daughter.
So they're really badass motorcycles. I have gotten to ride 2 of them now. An orange one that I rode in 2021. And then last year, Harley-Davidson let me borrow another one, a blue one that I named Stitch. And I mean, it's the same color as the little cartoon. Come on. Harley-Davidson put me through the Rawhide Adventure training course. So I got to actually learn how to ride that bike off-road. And that class was worth every single penny. I mean, I highly recommend taking an off-road riding course if you plan to ride a 600+ pound motorcycle in the dirt, because it will teach you literally life-saving lessons. And there are some things that I wanted to do on that orange bike, and I'm so glad I didn't do them, because I probably would have really hurt myself not having the training during the first time I rode one. But now that I've done everything on the blue one, I mean, I've ridden through such deep sand, y'all, such deep sand that I never thought I'd take a 600+ pound motorcycle in. And did I dump it? Oh yeah, I definitely dump it. I slid that bike out and like pinned myself underneath it multiple times, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It was cool, and it was such a cool experience. And on road, let's say you're not even gonna ride in the dirt, it's such an amazing motorcycle to tour on. It's so comfortable. You can put so much stuff on those bikes. It's crazy. And they still balance so well. Even with the adaptive ride height, it will still lower and raise. And I mean, it's so badass. Y'all are gonna have so much fun on them.
Yes. So the Specials comes equipped with the adaptive ride height, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm gonna need that.
Yeah.
I've sat on one and I could barely get the kickstand down. So I would, got to figure out how I'm gonna do this, but.
You'll be fine.
Totally
like you
fine.
saying that and hearing your experience definitely makes me feel way more comfortable, because I'm like, I handle my KTM 350. I'm one big toe on the ground, like side straddled, and then I just throttle out. But obviously that's a lot less weight. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see how this goes, but I'm excited.
I'm never completely flat-footed on the Pan America, and I typically only put one foot down at a time.
Yeah.
And this is just me on any motorcycle, not just
Same.
the Pan America, but yeah, I was gonna say, even on my old dyno, when you had to work on it that one time in Pensacola,
yeah.
I watched you take off, and I was like, little tiny dancer going down the road.
Tiny dancer.
Yeah.
Tiptoe Tina.
That's her name. I'm like, here comes Tiptoe Tina.
And I'm just really careful about how I park it, or like if I need to stop, I just kind of think about it as I'm rolling up. I'm like, okay, where can I get a foot planted well, so that I don't tip myself over or anything else. And if I do, oh well.
Right.
It happens, but that never has happened when I've pulled over, so you'll be fine.
Yeah. So I know a long time ago you were talking about getting the Tenere.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still on that kick, or would you say Pan America?
I haven't spent enough time on a Tenere. Mm-hmm. So for people listening to this, there's the Super Tenere and the Tenere 700. I'm considering the Tenere 700 mostly, honestly, because of the price point. It's a $10,000 adventure bike, and it is a little smaller. So it's like, do you want the cream of the crop? Do you want, the absolute heavyweight adventure bike, or do you want something a little more middleweight like the Tenere? And there are other differences, and we could be here for an hour talking about all of those things. But for me, going into wanting to buy an adventure bike, I want to wreck the thing. Like, I want to mess it up, because that's how you're going to learn. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I want a $30,000 motorcycle as the bike I want to take off road and and have it be my main touring bike. So for me to buy a Pan America, I feel is kind of irresponsible. So for me, I feel like the Tenere would be just a better choice to learn on and like learn more about. So I'm still definitely thinking about it. I did just buy a new motorcycle. I just bought a Lowrider ST.
Yeah.
But,
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. I named him Waylon. I love him.
We love Waylon.
And I feel like that could be like my main touring bike, and then just getting my feet a little more wet in the dirt, so to speak, a little more dirty, is a smarter choice for me personally. Everyone has, their ways of doing things. Some people buy adventure bikes and, ride them to Starbucks. That's the whole stereotype of adventure bike riders, is they take their BMWs to Starbucks and that's it. Some people take their cruisers to Sturgis and that's it. So, hey, everything has a stereotype.
Yep.
And yeah, I think for me personally, I would just like to wreck it a little bit and still have a good touring bike to ride on every day. So.
Yeah.
Totally. That makes sense.
Have you ever considered just doing a dirt bike and just,
Yes.
since it's really a lot cheaper, minimal investment to get your feet wet?
Sorry, I wanted to touch these. I was like, am I going to mess these up if I adjust this on my head? What was the question? Stacy.
What about a dirt bike? Like, that's minimal investment. I mean, you can pick one up for like $2,000.
I do really want a dirt bike. I've wanted a dirt bike since I was a little kid. Remember the motocross movie that came out on Disney Channel?
Yeah.
And like the chick takes like her brother's place because he breaks his leg or whatever. That movie is what lit the flame for me with motorcycles. And ever since I was a little kid, all I've ever wanted was a dirt bike. I'm 32 now. I've never had the opportunity to ride a dirt bike ever. Not even like around a corner. I've ridden like a little pit bike at Sturgis for like 10 minutes, but that's it, and you're fully maxed out on the throttle and it's going 2 miles an hour. But I've never ridden an actual dirt bike, but I would love one. I just don't feel like I have a ton of friends in that community where, I typically travel around at. So I don't know, it's hard. And I love the travel aspect. That's the hardest part about, focusing on dirt bikes, is it's like, okay, you can't go 250 miles on this thing in one stretch, and then go to the next city. So
It's true.
it's hard. I don't know. I want all the toys. I want to do
Same.
all the activities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you just got your new bike. We said Waylon.
Yes.
So that was a huge secret. I can't believe you spent that much time keeping it a secret. I would have bursted in the first day for sure.
That was the biggest secret I've kept from the internet, and I think ever, actually. And it was so funny because it was time to get ready to like announce that secret, people were like, I can't take it anymore. You have to tell me. Like, people were so invested in it. And just looking at my Instagram stories and like the analytics on it, I mean, I've never seen so many people waiting for me to announce something in my life on the internet, which is really cool.
Next, she's going to do a boyfriend reveal.
That'll be the day. Can you imagine? No, you didn't just throw that in there.
Soft launch with his hand on the motorcycle.
That is great. That is a good one. We'd like to see the stats on that.
But you did keep it under wraps, and in the meantime, you did like almost a complete build on it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So behind the scenes, y'all know I can't keep anything stocked to save my life, which is kind of the nice thing about getting into adventure bikes, because I don't know as much about the aftermarket world in that sense. So I was like, oh, if I get an adventure bike, I won't spend a bunch of money on aftermarket parts. But if I get a cruiser, I'm going to get all the aftermarket parts, which I did. So I worked with a bunch of really rad companies. I did Kraus Bars and Risers. I did their 10-inch Bully ST Pro kit. So I also did the Top Tree. Arlen Ness sent me a bunch of stuff. I did the big jagged brake rotors, front and rear, which I also had on my Dyna, and I absolutely loved them.
They look great.
Yeah, they look so good. First thing anyone sees when they look at my bike is the rotors, and they're like, could those get any bigger? Could they have given you
Big
bigger
boy.
ones? Yeah, the big boys for the little girl. And did a LaPera seat. I absolutely love LaPera seats. They're so plush and squishy. I'm obsessed with them. Also had one of those on my Dyna. I'm like, what else did I do to this thing? I did so much.
HPI exhaust.
Yeah, HPI exhaust. Leather pros. I did take the hard bags off. I personally, that's like the biggest thing with this bike. And it's people like, why did you take the hard bags off? And I like what I like, and I'm kind of a creature of habit, and I'm also a chick. I love pockets.
Yeah.
And I love having the side pockets on the Leather Pros, and I love that you can expand them if you absolutely have to. With the way that I pack, I typically don't need to, because I've learned to be just a minimalist and or put things on my passenger seat with a sissy bar and whatnot. But I love the way they look. I think that they're way more versatile, and the hard bags just don't carry enough for what I need, and or they're hard, you know. So it's like you can't put something awkwardly shaped in there if you absolutely had to.
Yeah.
So for me, it works. do what you want to do with your own motorcycle. That's what I always say, but that works for me, so that's what I did, and I'm stoked on it.
Oh yeah, it looks great. It's ready to rumble.
Yeah, I've already put like 2,500 miles on that bike, so it's like, yep, okay, cool, we're back in business. Let's go.
Yeah, because it had been a while, hadn't it?
It had. My Dyna has about 93,000 miles on it, and I bought it brand new back in 2015. It had 5 miles on it when I got it from the dealership. And it just had so many issues over the years, and like rightfully so. I rode the piss out of it. Like, it's not a bike with 10,000 miles on it. That's a bike. If it had the amount of issues I had, that would be a big issue, you know. But I rode it all over the country, did a lot with it, and it was just time for a new reliable bike with 0 miles. And so,
yeah, that's awesome. And congratulations again. That's a huge step forward. I mean, the motor company didn't give you a bike, which I'm mad about. Harley. No, I'm just kidding.
Damn, on blast.
there's still room for opportunity.
But there's a Pan America that she wants. Just kidding. But yeah, so how did you get interested in Harley-Davidson specifically? 'Cause there's a ton of motorcycles out there.
Yeah, okay, so that's a fun story. When I was in high school, I was dating a dude who was into cars, and he was building muscle cars. We would go to like the racetracks, we would go to car nights and meetups and whatnot. So like bike nights, except you're in, you know, like a Kroger parking lot looking at everyone's cars and trucks. And I just got really into kind of like the hot rod culture in Houston, which is where I grew up, and ended up going to college. I was sitting outside one of my classes, and this kid next to me was watching me watch drag racing videos on my laptop, and he was like, "Do you want a job at a Harley-Davidson dealership?" And I was like, I mean, yeah, I have some free time. I should probably get a part-time job. Like, I'm getting kind of bored just doing homework and then, like, not knowing what to do with myself. I was a freshman in college, you know? And so I became a motor clothes girl and started selling, you know, dealer tees and helmets and whatnot. I had no clue what a Street Glide or a Street Bob or a Sportster was. I walked into a dealership and I was like, "What's that one?" And he's like, "Oh, that one's a Street Bob." And I was like, "So what's different than this one?" And he's like, "That's a Street Glide. You can tell, you know, because of the way it is." And I was like, "No, I can't tell shit." You know? And I mean, that was in early 2010, you know? So fast forward, and now, yeah, I can tell them all apart. I can tell you the differences from all kinds of different motorcycles, panheads, shovel heads, all the things. So it's, you know, you can learn stuff over time. But yeah, that's basically it. They announced the 48 model that year when I was working at that dealership, and they rolled out the very first one. And I was like, I'm going to own that motorcycle. And then that's when I bought my first bike. I saved up that whole summer, worked, and then I ate ramen noodles and eggs, like literally all summer as a poor college kid, and then put a down payment on my first bike. But yeah, just watching drag racing videos between college classes.
That's rad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody else in your family is into motorcycles. It's just your thing, right? Or
Well, up until recently. So my dad actually used to ride motorcycles before I was born. And for a long time, it was his only mode of transportation. And right before I was born, like a year or two beforehand, he stopped riding because I think my parents just wanted to have a family, and that was like the main focus. And he didn't have a motorcycle up until like a couple months ago, and he just bought a Sportster.
Wow.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So I rode through and I got to see them about a month ago.
Oh, that's
when
badass.
right when I bought my new bike, and so I got to see his little Sportster and hear all about it. So that's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
super.
Yeah, so now you guys need to plan a trip together.
Yeah, he like rides around because they live kind of out in the country, so he'll just do little loops around where he's from, and he's totally content with that. But yeah, so growing up, realistically, and my dad didn't ride Harleys beforehand, you know, in his first generation of riding motorcycles, he had like an old Honda CB something, so in which he rode all over the place, like between Lubbock and Houston and all over. So that's pretty cool. He was doing the long distance thing too, I guess. But growing up, that was never an influence in my life at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
How interesting. So it's kind of like you reignited that for him. I bet.
I bet.
Yeah.
I influenced him.
Hashtag influence. Staci out here doing the diligence. And you got 2 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a business marketing degree and management.
That's badass.
Yeah.
So did you think that you were going to own your own business? Like, was that always the goal, or did you want to go corporate, or did you have any idea?
You know, I don't remember, honestly. What I do remember is that I waited till I was 21 to get tattooed, and I'm not heavily covered in tattoos, obviously, but I do have tattoos on my legs. And in my senior year of college, they made us dress in business suits and whatnot for certain classes. And I got pulled up in the middle of one of my classes, and they were like, "You're never going to make it in the corporate world because of your tattoos and this and that." And I was like, "Mate," and I also had red hair, and it was leopard print on the side. I was in a Harley commercial way back when, the stereotypical Harley campaign. And it was all leopard print. And, you know, my professor's making an example out of me, and I just looked at her, I was like, maybe I don't want to work for the corporation that you're thinking of. You know, maybe that's just not what I want to do. There's plenty of other jobs out there. And yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's what lit the fire underneath me. And I was like, nah, I'm not going that route, because I don't want to be around people that are going to try and mold me into something I don't want to be. Right? I'm not sure. But I just kind of over time learned to hustle and learned to work for myself. And I mean, even in high school, I was hustling T-shirts. Even in high school, I was hustling T-shirts. I like made my own senior T-shirts and had Lil Wayne on them. It said "Seniors of '09, you dig." He even had like, he even had like a little gold grill on him.
No. Yes.
That's amazing.
You
Somebody
need to bring it back.
I know.
Dude, I graduated with, I want to say 722 kids. I graduated with a lot of people, and I remember I sold over 200 T-shirts. So they were a thing. I remember slinging them out at the Starbucks. Dude, I was like, come pick them up at the Starbucks off Kirkendall.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
We're going to have to roll through Texas Goodwills now.
Yeah, no shit, for real.
Eye on the prize. I love it.
Yes. So I don't know. Maybe I've always kind of had that entrepreneur mentality behind me, and I've just kind of learned how to do that more and more over time. Maybe. I don't know. I've just kind of always just rolled with it and seen where life kind of takes me. I have tried to work for other people, and I've always just, you know what really did it for me was I went on a road trip for my college graduation present to myself. I rode from Austin to Baja, Mexico for the El Diablo run in 2013. That was my first out-of-state road trip. I had been going like between Austin and Houston, which is about 150 miles on the weekends. And then I decided, you know, this is what I'm going to do for my college graduation. I'm going to ride to Mexico by myself, mind you.
Yeah.
And that just kind of lit a flame for me. And I tried going back and working all the time, and I just always wanted to take off and ride my bike. And normal jobs don't let you do that. Especially most Harley dealerships want you working on the weekends and, you know, working all the time. And I tried real hard. I tried multiple times, and I just wanted to ride my bike. So I was like, I'm going to find a way to do more in the motorcycle industry than just work in the HarleyDavidson dealer network. And so that was back in 2014. And then, you know, fast forward, I've done all kinds of things since then. I've even gone back to working in the HarleyDavidson dealer network and doing stuff for dealers. But every time it just kind of shows me, I'm like, nope, I want to be on the road. I want to do something involving motorcycle and motorcycle touring. For work.
Yeah.
So
how did you juggle the multiple dealerships? Because you were part of a network of dealers, correct? And you had to do multiple dealerships.
Yeah.
How did you juggle all that?
Yeah, so the last time, like I said, the last time I worked in a Harley-Davidson dealer network, I actually was a part of a dealer group. And I was a marketing director for 6 dealerships.
That's crazy.
Which is gnarly. Normally there's a couple people doing all that work. And at the time, it was a dealer group that was, you know, growing rapidly, so they weren't employing people quick enough to fill all the positions. So I was doing minimum 4 people's jobs. And I was burnt out and I was tired, and they were very fortunate that I had already done a job like that previously. When I left the dealer network originally back in 2014, I had already been doing marketing and events for dealers. So I hopped into that one and was like, yep, I got this. And I've also been working in the motorcycle industry as a photographer, you know, doing marketing consulting or helping or management, whatever. Early stage content creation, right? That's before that content creator term was really a thing. And I just rocked and rolled. I was like, you don't even need to train me. Just go sit down and stop panicking. I got this. And it just, you know, then that snowballed, and I just couldn't handle all of it by myself. I tried for about 8 months, and I was just like, guys, I need help. And I couldn't get the help. And then I was like, I think I'm just going to do Ridetofood full time. And that's when I was like, okay, we're going to take this seriously. But yeah, it's a lot, because you do the same thing. You do marketing for a Harley-Davidson dealer. You know how much work it is.
For just one, I can't imagine all of our dealerships, because we're part of a group too, and it's a lot. Like we have one person that oversees stuff, and then we've got like 1 to 2 people in every other dealership that's the marketing team.
Right.
So it's a lot of moving parts.
And
like everybody's like, it can't be that hard.
Every job has its pros and cons.
Yes.
In my dealer network, that dealer group, I'm sorry, specifics here. That dealer group was all in one specific area. You know, your dealer group is spread out all over the country.
Yeah.
So that was a benefit for me, is if I needed to be at one dealership A, I could be at dealership A for a weekend. If I needed to be at dealership B, I could go there the next weekend. It was when we had events at both dealers on the same weekend. I was like, sorry guys, I can't be at both. I can't be managing this. You guys are gonna have to take the reins. Like, I set it up for success. You guys got to take it.
Yeah.
Or hire help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. So I did what I could, but
Yeah. What would you say you learned from that job?
a lot.
Yeah.
You know, from a managerial standpoint, treating your employees well is very important, and acknowledging burnout, and that, you know, maybe not everyone has the same drive as you. I think that's really important. And just, I think in general, valuing your employees is so important. I mean, look at where we're at in the world right now with, you know, like, what are they calling it? The great walkout, or the great whatever it is. Anyway, I feel like a lot of people don't feel valued in their jobs because, you know, they never get time off. They feel like they're worked to the bone. And that's really where I left that. And I also feel like people need to be paid well for their time. And that I mean, that's politics. That could go we could go way down that wormhole in the motorcycle world in general. That's some gossip for the internet. But yeah, I think just taking care of your employees and just, you know, making sure they know that they're valued, and being like, hey, I want you to go ride your motorcycle and have fun, and like, you don't just have to stare at them and keep them shiny in here.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of dealerships do forget that. And then when people don't get to ride their bikes, you know what they don't want to do? They don't want to work at a dealership anymore because it's not fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the things that, like, we've got a new HR director, and I'm super stoked because I was like, I have ideas. Like, can we do this for, like, staff? Because I want to do stuff for everybody in the dealership. Like, we all bust our asses. And, like, Mike, our GM, sees that. He knows that.
Right.
So I always like to come up with, like, creative ideas for us to do something fun and, like, rides and stuff, because we've got to give them, like, ammo to be able to keep going. Like, I feel like whenever you just keep working them to the bone, nobody wants to be there. Everybody starts getting mad at each other, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Redrock is one of those places that just learn how to become a family. Like, everybody rides. Pretty much almost everybody. The GM rides. I've never really seen personally a GM ride a lot. Like, he rides a lot. So it's awesome that, you know, you guys can come together with a common interest and actually foster that relationship. So I like it. It's not just randos.
Go Team Redrock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you have people in your dealership that love motorcycles and want to ride motorcycles, you know how much easier it makes selling the lifestyle to someone who walks in. Maybe they're a new rider, and I think, you know, something that a lot of people in motorcycling forget, like the motorcycle industry, is it's all of our jobs to grow the sport of motorcycling in one way or another. Because, you know, everyone's like, oh, no one wants to ride bikes anymore. I'm like, well, when you walk in a dealership and no one's excited about these bikes, what do you expect's going to happen? You know,
Yeah.
and that's only one side of it. But when you get people walking in your dealership, you want them to be stoked. You want to be like, hey, did you go ride out to, you know, Pioneer Saloon, or have you been over here? And oh no, oh man, you got to. And then you can sit there and talk to them, and you can build a community within your dealership. You know, that's so big in the Harley-Davidson world. That's what sets Harley-Davidson apart from all these other motorcycle brands, is this niche community of people who just love this brand and the lifestyle around it. You don't get that when you walk into a Yamaha dealer or something else. I mean, you do a little bit, but it's more like, it's other things, you know. It's just different. Anyone who's ever walked into a metric store understands.
Yeah.
So
It is
yeah.
a different vibe for sure.
Yeah, I think building that community at dealerships is so important. And you can tell. Like, you can tell when you walk in a dealership where people just genuinely love motorcycles and they actually get to ride. You can see it in their employees a lot of the time.
Well, I can't wait to take you to the dealership after we leave the podcast studio.
I've only been one time, and y'all were closed.
Really?
Yeah, it was before I even knew y'all. It was I spent New Year's here back in 2013 with a couple of friends, and one of them used to live here when he was in the military. And I don't remember why we stopped there, but we did. And then I remember, like, when you started working there, I was like, that's that dealership. So, yeah.
I
do
love our
remember it.
dealership.
Yeah.
Well, I'm stoked to take you back. There's so many cool things. Show you our service department. It's freaking massive. And
Cool.
if you're ever coming through, you know you're taken care of.
Yeah. Help.
So how many years have you been working now on Ride to Food solely, and how was that idea conceived?
So I started officially being full-time Ride to Food in 2018. That is when I left the Harley-Davidson dealer network for good, and I said, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go full-time, work for myself, fulfill that dream that I was talking about of, working in the motorcycle industry and focusing on motorcycle touring and travel, because that's just where my heart and my passion is. And I originally thought about it while I was traveling on my motorcycle. I was on my Dyna, and I was an invited photographer for Fuel Cleveland back in, I want to say 2016. It was one of the first years of it. And I was somewhere like between Memphis and I want to say Nashville. And I was so hungry, and I was going to my friend's house, and she didn't ride, or like she had rode for, like 5 minutes. So she didn't really know like the biker bars or the cool hip places that, maybe would be motorcycle friendly or something that I would want to hang out at. And I was like, man, it'd be really cool if like there was something online that kind of showcased that a bit more and showed some cool places to eat than, I don't know, just things that motorcyclists would want to do. And then I was just like, I think I'm going to call it Ride to Food. Like, live to ride, ride to food. Like, makes sense to me. Like, that's what I do. I'm a foodie. So I was like, cool, this is what I'm going to do. And that was, 2016. I kind of kept it under wraps for a few years. Kind of posted random stuff on my Instagram here and there, but I never took it, like, completely serious. And then when I started working in that dealer group again, I did that for, I don't know, about 8 months or something. And I was like, okay, no, like we're going to take this very serious this time. And we being me, myself, and my 20 personalities. I'm just kidding. But I'm going to take this very seriously this time. And I'm going to, fulfill this and put this information out there and help people. That's the way I view what I'm doing with Ride to Food is I'm helping people learn how to travel on their motorcycle, learn how to go motorcycle camping, like find other tips and tricks and things to do, because there's all kinds of travel bloggers out there. Maybe they're van lifers or overlanders or, just the basic person in their Camry going across the country. But I don't feel like a lot of people do it from a motorcycle perspective necessarily. So like I'm not the only one, and I'm very well aware of that, which is rad that there's people doing it. But that information obviously still needs to be out there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And your production value is just insane. I love it. From YouTube videos, then you like consciously create on your Instagram, like it's all beautiful. I love it. But you're so thoughtful with your blogs. So I think that sets you apart as well as a content creator. And I don't know, you just navigate every single world so well. I don't know how you do it.
Well, thank you. I'm
It is
OCD
really
and
rad.
it drives me insane.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, there's a lot of feelings that go behind that. So like you felt with the burnout with the Harley job, but then you're going into a job where you're working 24/7, doing merch, shipping, YouTube videos, actually creating the content, photos, video, all the jazz.
Editing.
Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the burnout?
Yeah, I'm the accountant.
Yeah.
I'm the everything.
Yeah, customer service.
Literally
Yeah.
anything and everything. Yes, I'm in my own HR department for myself.
Yeah.
I just have to work through it. And like, that's the worst inspiring thing I guess I could say, right? But it's just one of those things where it's like, if you want something bad enough, you're going to have to like deal with the tough parts because it will get better, but you have to get through the trenches first.
Yeah.
And it's something that hasn't always been very easy for me to deal with, but knowing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel has made it that much easier for me to deal with. And I'm burnout all the time. Don't get me wrong. It's not always butterflies and rainbows and, riding a Harley with my hair blowing through the wind in the desert or however the song goes. But that might be what it looks like online, but there's definitely hard parts to it. But if you want something bad enough, you figure it out and you make it work.
Exactly.
So.
I think that's the huge takeaway is that you literally work through it. You don't give up because you know that the hard work is going to pay off.
Yes.
And that's the badass part about it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Everyone thinks that, it like they say Instagram's a highlight reel. It really is. But there's a lot of work that goes into it if you really want to make it your full-time job. everyone thinks, they'll watch me ride on my YouTube video, and I'm like, that was 4 14-hour days of filming, and setting a tripod up, running back and getting it, and doing this or doing that, and not to mention the pre-production that goes into it and everything else. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I love doing all of that stuff. It's super cool, but it's a lot more work than some people realize.
Oh yeah.
And that's what sets it apart too. It's like they don't want to do the work, and that's okay. Do what makes you happy. That makes me happy, but it is a ton of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's well worth it though, because like I said, you do stand out.
You
like
do.
we were watching your videos on poolside, full blown, just like she was laughing through it. Like you just relate to you. So we relate to you so much, and the storyline is just so beautifully curated. So props to you.
Yes, big props.
Big props.
friends.
Yeah. We're kind of new to being consistent. I mean, we're only 7 episodes deep, but we're on YouTube. I had a YouTube channel that I was putting vlogs on like a million years ago. Definitely not as good as you. But how do you like the platform of YouTube versus like Instagram and all the other stuff?
Yeah, well, first of all, people still remember you from YouTube, because when we did that video in Pensacola a while back, people would be like, oh man, I wish Kristen would still make videos. And I'm like, look, they know who she is.
Whoops.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of work, guys.
Yeah. And now I'm like, hey, guess what? She has a podcast. It's kind of the same thing.
Right.
But it's a very different world. But you know what's crazy is before I started a YouTube channel, I didn't even use YouTube. I didn't even have the app on my phone.
Wow.
Like if something directed me to go to YouTube, and it would try to open the app, I'd be like, oh, forget about it. I'm not watching it. Like I just never opened YouTube. And then I was like, I've been a photographer for years. I want to start dabbling in video content and doing more on that side of things. And I want to get into YouTube. Wow, what a wormhole I went down. It is so different, and it's a very supportive community. There is negativity just like there is on every other social media platform, but there's a lot of people out there who do see how hard you work to put out valuable content, and they appreciate it. And they really, they will follow you to the end of the earth and be super loyal and super supportive. And there's a lot of really friendly people too. I meet people all over the place now. I was at Torchy's Tacos, and I think I was in Round Rock, Texas recently, and I had just got my to-go order. I was grabbing food for me and a girlfriend, and this guy turns around at the bar, and he was like, oh, you're Ridetofood. And I was like, I don't even think he got the Ridetofood part out. And I was just like, hey, what's up? I'm Staci. Like, I knew exactly what had happened.
Yeah.
And,
Jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I was like, what's up, dude? And we talked for a minute, and he was like, sorry, that was like me, meeting a celebrity in real life. And I was like, I'm just a chick, man.
No, but yeah, people do become like kind of celebrities in people's eyes.
Yeah, because it's like, we have these TVs in our houses, and it's like, watching the news reporter or watching someone on the History Channel or these, big nationwide broadcasts. And it's kind of the same thing, but it's just on YouTube. Now that technology has changed so much, and you can pull YouTube up on your TV through, all the apps and stuff. I didn't have a TV for years, and I had no clue there were apps on the TV. When I finally bought one, I was like, whoa, no wonder people watch YouTube on a TV all the time. Had no clue. But it's so cool to see, it's just a completely different world from Instagram. And, I had built a social following on Instagram long before I had YouTube. And that's a question I get a lot too is, how did your YouTube channel blow up so fast, other than the obvious of the quality content, I think, separates me from other motorcycle-esque YouTubers, especially who do it solo. But Instagram is just I feel like it's just a different community. It really is. And I love the Instagram community that I had built. But I don't know. It's so hard to explain. But they are very different. They are very different groups of people. But I think that it's crazy how many people are actually on YouTube.
Yeah.
Apparently I was the only one who didn't have a YouTube app on their phone. Everyone uses YouTube.
Yeah, there's people with 19 million subscribers, probably 1 billion or something now. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like the people on YouTube have such well thought out responses, and they give you novels worth of information back when you post something up. So that's super cool, because you can hardly get an emoji out of people. on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I enjoy reading a lot of the comments, and sometimes like they're just so kind a lot of times too. Something I've really learned too is that if you don't give people a reason to be negative, then they can't give you a negative comment, you know? So it's like, I get negative comments? Of course I do. Everyone does. But most of mine are super supportive.
Yeah.
You know, I might pronounce something wrong or do something silly, and then, someone will call me out. But for the most part, I don't put myself in a position like that. So I get a lot of really rad responses from people. So it's cool.
Yeah.
That's funny that you were talking about the comments, because we were on 2-Lane Life this week, or last week. The weeks are running together.
Yeah, I don't
remember. But this week, last week, 1 week, they were talking about how they wore these jackets, and they would print the comments, and they would like put them in balls and throw them out, because it was just like, okay, cool guy, thanks for your comment.
Yeah, and then they also reiterated that they are no longer receiving that many negative comments because they don't really give it the light. They don't shed light on it. Where we don't, they ask the same thing. If we get any sort of derogatory remarks or anything like that, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know. I don't really pay attention enough for them to affect me.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing about being a #influencer that people should definitely realize, is that you can't let that stuff get to you.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not worth your time, your investment. You know, you put a lot into what you're putting out there. So, you know, people will always get what they want out of it, and, you know, just don't pay attention to the haters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always just picture this guy with like, you know, like the little kid's T-shirt with his hairy belly hanging out, with like a paper,
Mom's basement.
Yeah, with like a paper clip in his belly button, and he's like, you know, eating Doritos, like typing on the keyboard, and that's who's leaving the mean comments. I had a guy one time who told me how stupid I was because I had T-bars on my motorcycle and ape hangers were better, and just wrote me this comment about how awful I was, and I was like, hell yeah, brother, send.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, daughter. All right, so I've got a question for you. You do most of your traveling solo. How do you feel about traveling with others?
Yeah, Brandy invites the whole town every time she goes on a ride.
I just don't want people to feel left out.
You're so sweet. So,
but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It is. And like, it depends on the ride, and it depends on like what I'm doing. Like our ride, I'm super stoked to do, because like you said, I usually travel alone. I don't get to see my friends a lot, because the reality is a lot of the time I'm working when I'm traveling, and I'm not going to put people up to having to stop all the time because I need to fly a drone, or I need to take photos on the side of the road for a client or for myself or whatever. And it's, you know, something that people see online that's, you know, a 20-minute video. It might have taken me, like I said earlier, it might have taken me 5 days at 14 hours to shoot that whole 25-minute video. I'm not going to put someone up to that, you know, that, you know, didn't sign up for it. It's like, sorry, it's not bring your friend to work day.
Yeah, exactly.
So I typically just like to do it on my own, because then I can be on my own pace. I can do whatever I want, and it like lowers my stress levels so much. And then, you know, when I do have time to go on road trips with my friends, or incorporate my friends into a work trip that they've voluntarily signed up for, then that works out too, you know. But the last handful of years, I've been so busy building my business that I haven't really gotten to go on road trips with my friends. You know, we did that trip to Sturgis, and I kind of made it a work trip, and I was like, I was really trying to juggle. I was like, okay, I can't make this too gnarly because Kristen's going to hate me.
No, but like, I'm down for the ride. Like, you came to Florida too, made a video of that one. We did the Georgia Stillhouse trip together.
Yep.
So we've done a lot of like work play things together, and it just works well because I think we're both like-minded in that sense, where you still want to get stuff done, but you want to be productive on your fun trips.
Yes, absolutely.
It's in our personality.
So it's like I do enjoy traveling with my friends, but it just, I have to be able to work-life balance it. You know, and that's one thing that a lot of people just forget, is it's like, it is still work sometimes. But now that my business is starting to grow, I'm able to start integrating actual like off the clock trips into what I'm doing. So that part's really cool too. It's like in the next year, it's like, you know, we're talking about coming back to Vegas. I'm like, hell yeah, let's come back to Vegas. Maybe I won't even work.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But I'll try. But yeah, I don't know. It just depends on the trip. Like I think for me, traveling solo, like I'm just one of those people that has a personality who, like, I'm just very content being alone. And I am very confident being alone. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, there's times when I go camping, people are always asking me, like, how do you go camping by yourself all the time? And I'm like, I don't know. I just do it. Like, because I'm comfortable. I also don't put myself in situations where, like, you know, I feel like there's like murder vibes, you know, like, have you heard that? It's like, oh, there's murder vibes at that campground.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
out. Yeah. I don't put myself in those situations, or I just listen to my gut. If I don't think it's a good choice, I leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I do my research beforehand. I know what I'm getting myself into. And I'm comfortable and I'm fine. And don't get me wrong, there's times where I hear a bump in the night and I'm like, what was that?
Oh, yeah.
I had a raccoon or some little creature one time come up to my tent, and I don't put anything in my tent because I'm usually sleeping in bear country. Like, I know what to do when I'm camping. And I remember waking up, it was like a full moon, so I could see the little paw print on my tent, and I had heard something outside. And I was like, what's outside? Is that a deer, you know? What is that? And all of a sudden there's a little print like right in front of my face, and I was like, you know, like freaking out. I was up for a solid hour because the adrenaline was so high.
Oh, yeah.
But in all the times I've camped, which y'all know, I've camped hundreds of nights, especially since 2020. I bet you I've camped at least 100 nights in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So one tiny little raccoon isn't going to scare me off from being alone. You know?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just love it. It's like my time to just be by myself and have me time. You know, what's that thing? Self-care. That's what we're all doing these days.
Yeah.
It's trendy. Yeah, I'm all about that all the time.
I need to get better at that self-care.
Yeah.
I always invite everybody. I'm like, oh man, she'll like this. They'll like this. Like, I need to hit them up. They need to come out and experience it.
I think that's just your personality, though. I think you don't feel as good as you feel when you have people around you when you're alone.
That's true.
Versus like I don't know, I bounce between them. Like I'm very selective on who I spend my time with, so I love like hanging out with her or like the small group we have. But if I had to invite random people on everything that I did, I'd be like, no, I want to hang out by myself. I do love hanging out by myself. So I kind of, I'm in the middle, I think, of that spectrum.
Totally.
Trying to get better at it though. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, they're like, how do you just like go out and be solo, you know? And I'm like, you don't have to go 500 miles to figure it out. Like, go 100 miles from your house. And 100 miles is, you know, depends on where you live. If you're in the mountains, that could be a few hours. If you're in the Midwest, that's a straight line. So, you know, pick something that's, you know, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from your house, and just go.
Yeah.
And see if you're comfortable, you know, even if it's camping. Let's say, like, okay, go for a night and go camping. Yeah, don't go super far from home. Go to a KOA where there's people. Go to an established campground. Get comfortable being alone, and then slowly expand your horizons. Like, sometimes I relate it back to, you know, when you start riding motorcycles. When I first got my first bike, like I said, you know, I took a rider. When I first started riding motorcycles, I had someone ride my bike to my apartment because I live near downtown Austin and off East Riverside. So, you know, have to go down 35, which is crazy, and then down East Riverside, which is also crazy. And I wasn't ready to do that. So I had a mechanic ride my bike to my apartment, and I rode it around the apartment complex for like the first night. And then the next night I went off into the street, and there's a neighborhood next door. And same thing, I got up at like 4 a.m. and I'd ride my little Sportster around in the neighborhood. And then on like the third night, I was like, all right, I'm going to go out on the street. You know, I went out when there was no people out, because then it's easier to get comfortable being on the road, because, you know, it's kind of crazy going from being in a car or a truck, and then all of a sudden you have this whole lane to yourself, and you're like, oh, what do I do in here? It's very different. And you don't think about that till you're actually on a bike. And yeah, so then like the third night, I just went out and started riding on the road. I ended up taking a wrong turn that night onto, I want to say it was Cesar Chavez in Austin. Well, that road ends up turning into 183, which is a highway.
Oh, no.
So I had to learn how to go 65 mile an hour, like my third day on a motorcycle. And that's I'm sure y'all remember, like when you first start riding, 65 mile an hour is real fast. And that wind hits your face and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going 90 million miles an hour. And I had to figure it out. You know, what else are you going to do? Go 30 and get yourself killed? Nope. You're going to
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen so many times where they're just like so scared on the highway and they go 40, and I'm like, this is dangerous.
You're going to get hurt.
Yeah, you absolutely need to just throw down, get into the speed limit.
Or get off on the next exit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and so it just, again, baby steps, or just send it, you know, and figure it out as you go.
Yeah,
like,
that's how I do it.
Other. Yeah. And I mean, obviously I kind of hybrid it, but.
We did something similar to that for the Sin City Moto Girls a few weeks back. We did an intro to camping. So I did a ride of, think it was like 250 miles. But it's funny because I ended it in Redrock Canyon. So if anybody got there and they were like, I don't want to camp, I don't want, this isn't for me, then they could go home like easily. Or if they wanted to, everybody opted to stay. We had a great dinner together, but we sat around the campfire and talked about like different things that we all use. So that was really cool. And that's pretty much what you just said is like an intro to camping. Like you don't go out and do a full weekend of trying to learn to camp the first time you're going to go camp.
Yeah, like, backpacking 10 miles into the Grand Canyon for your first backpacking trip.
With a heavy-ass pack.
Yeah.
Back to the very start of this.
Full circle. Everything's full circle.
Everything's full circle. So what's your next milestone? And I always ask this question, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
I feel like a lot of the things we've talked about, on this podcast is, how much work I've put into everything I've been building and, talking about burnout and just the nonstop work. And I'm at the point where I am ready to hire help. So I never wanted Ridetofood to be just about me. I always just viewed it as I'm the host and or I'm, the primary helper, the giver of the informations, right? And I always wanted to bring other people on. I always wanted other faces and, personalities to be a part of it. So and a lot of people forget that I have a blog, and I've always wanted to turn that blog into something much more multifaceted than like just my opinions on some things. So eventually I will have other blog contributors that are there that I feel are educated enough on certain topics to give valuable information to people to help them. So the quality of content will not go down. It will just be from other faces, probably faces people know from the internet already, that I've known for a long time and I trust their opinions on things. Same with bringing people onto the channel. I will have other people eventually come onto the channel and tell their stories, kind of like what we're doing with this Nevada road trip, and you guys are showing Daughters of the Road in your home state and seeing all the cool things that are here. Just bringing people on and expanding my team. I want to be able to, going back to growing the sport of motorcycling, I want to grow the industry side of it too and give people opportunities to work in this industry, whether it's, motorcycle specific or, on the travel and tourism kind of side of things, because I kind of hybrid those. But I think just being able to give people more opportunities and start expanding, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Hell yeah. She's going to get a bunch of resumes sent in.
Yeah, you are. I'm like, sorry about that.
No.
She's like, no, I hand select, please.
Yeah, I've been sharking people out for years now. I've been working in this industry for, since 2010. Technically since 2010, and it's 2023 now. Yeah, it's 2023.
Yeah.
So 13 years later, I've met probably thousands at this point. I've met thousands of people over the years, and you narrow that down into the motorcycle industry, and the people that have stuck around and have shown their passions for it and their knowledge has grown, and seeing that flame still lit. Like I know who those people are, and there's still so many people to meet. I'm not saying I know the whole motorcycle industry because I don't. It's so big, especially outside just our little Harley cruiser side. There's so much to it. That's the cool thing about getting into adventure bike riding. Is I'm like, look at this whole new vortex to explore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's like the cool part about that for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the same thing with us. Like just we knew our mission was motorsports culture in general. So that can go to NASCAR drivers or I don't know.
Side-by-side drivers.
Side-by-side drivers. There's a rally called Rebel Rally, and it's a bunch of women driving off-road vehicles through the desert. And so I would love to see other types of enthusiasts come on the podcast and talk about that and stuff that we don't even know about,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. But to your point, we've spent so much time in the motorcycle, specifically Harley-Davidson space, so it's so cool to be able to reach out to those people like you and have them come on, share their stories, because we know they're valuable information and inspiring stories. So It's really cool for these opportunities.
Totally.
So what events or projects do you have coming up that you can share?
What a year. I don't have too many secrets right now.
Wayland's out.
Yeah, Wayland's out, so I'm an open book at this point. So we're about to do this big Nevada trip. That's obviously the next big thing on the to-do list. I'm going to go to Laconia this year.
Oh,
it's the
nice.
100th anniversary of Laconia Bike Week. So, I mean, I love like the big celebration years, 100s, 95s, whatever. I did my first Sturgis was the 75th Sturgis. What a way to go to Sturgis for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest one in history. So doing Laconia this year, and I'm going to spend about a week up in New Hampshire, and y'all don't even need to know how much time I've spent learning about New Hampshire in that area over the last handful of years. So I'm really excited to go up there and knock some things off my bucket list, some cool roads, things to eat, lobster rolls, whoopie pies, all the things, Ben and Jerry's in Vermont. July, I'm doing Get On ADV Fest. So I will be doing some more adventure bike riding stuff with Revzilla. And then I will be at Sturgis, of course, for Biker Bells. I am a special guest on that ride this year, which is cool. And if you don't know what that is a nonprofit charity ride, and they raise money, and it's a big women's ride. I believe men can do it too, though. But anyway, yeah, all these badass chicks ride like no feet down all the way from Deadwood over to the Buffalo Chip. It's really, really cool.
Good ride.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then, man, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing some things on my schedule. I'm like, man, I think I missed some stuff. I don't know. This year, since I have a new motorcycle, I really just want to go do some big rides, because for the last year, 2 years, I haven't gotten to do as much of it on my own bike.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just like, okay, where can I squeeze in 1,000 miles over 3 days? Where can I do this? Where can I do that? I think I want to see like the fall foliage over in foliage. Everyone makes fun of me because I can't say that. Foliage in the Smokies. I hear it's really pretty out there in the fall.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I'd like to get back out to the Smokies. That was really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just follow along with her adventures. Where can we find you?
Ride-to-Food.
Ride-to-Food. She's got a website. She's got a YouTube, Instagram, all the good stuff. Do you have TikTok?
I do have TikTok. When I remember, I have TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I feel that. I feel that so much. Yeah, I feel like every platform now has TikTok, Reels, Shorts, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Every single platform has it now. So, but yeah, again, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast, like making the trip out west and then including us in it to go explore. Like it's going to be so much fun. I'm so stoked on that.
I'm so excited. I can't believe it's finally here. I'm so excited to take my helmet out of the box, to be completely honest. By the way.
Yeah, but you've always been down for the adventure, always been down to create something. And we're so excited because it's like, you're scratching at the surface of what you're bound to build, because I know that you've already done so much, but I still feel like it's just going to explode. And I'm so fucking pumped for that.
Yeah, and you're coming along for the ride, little buddy.
I sure hope so.
Tiptoe Tina?
Tiptoe Tina coming through. But yeah, so Brandy, take it away with what's happening in life.
So we have a lot going on for Daughters of the Road over the next couple of weeks. We have the Deadwood Moto Show, In Cahoots Moto, Born Free, the 120th anniversary, AFT events, and a few Redrock events. So in there we've, during the summer, the dealership doesn't do as many events because of the weather, of course. We're hosting a lot of people this year, so if you want to know what's going on at the dealership, just hop on to redrockharley.com and check out our events calendar.
Yeah, we'll be all over the place for the next several months. It's funny because people ask like when I have a free weekend, and I'm like, I don't. For a while. We have a full calendar, so it's pretty cool. So if you want to catch us, you can catch us at those events. And then also, we want to give a special shout out to today's presenting sponsor, Stinger Trailers. So the funny thing about Stinger Trailers, this is good. Yeah, we were in Costa Rica, and it's so funny. We had been dirt biking. I'm like taking a chill moment. I'm in the bathroom just scrolling on my phone, and I just scream. And Brandy's in the other side of the room.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I was like, Brandy! And she opens the door. I'm on the toilet, and I'm like, I want a Stinger trailer! So I found out I won the Stinger trailer, and the cool thing about these things is that they have like a pin release system. You can fold it up. It basically takes the real estate of like a lawnmower in your garage. So I'm super stoked on that because I had a big old enclosed trailer for my motorcycles that I basically only use to move. So,
Right.
you know, I found out that was not really functional for me. So I'm very, very excited to get the Stinger trailer, and you can use it with ATVs, UTVs. There's single trailers, there's double motorcycle trailers, and you can tow it with a regular car. So yeah, it's really cool. So check them out, Stinger trailers. And yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Daughters of the Road. We have another episode dropping in about 2 weeks. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the YouTube, subscribe, and
do all the things.
do all
Set the
things.
reminders.
Set the reminders, baby, because we got
Ring that bell, y'all.
Yes, ring the bell. We've got a lot going on, and like we said, we're doing the Travel Nevada Eagle Rider campaign with Ridetofood, and there's going to be a lot of cool stuff dropping on that. So just set your reminders.
And we've got a really cool thing coming up also for Sturgis, so we're gonna have to include you in on this.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I love surprises. Tell me more.
we're gonna hold this one. We're gonna try to see what kind of stats we can get, like you did on Waylon. So we got some cool shit for Sturgis. So.
Yes,
Cool.
yes. So stay tuned,
tuned.
guys. And until next time, we'll see you on the road.
Bye.